It's been a long time, guys. I just went on hiatus, after my long vacation from the Florida Keys. I didn't record anything, so you know how it go. Good morning to those who woke up today to be with the Lord, October 3rd. Happy birthday to those born today, October 3rd, 2025. And of course, my condolences go out to those who did not wake up to be with us, who are now with the Lord. 60 gang condolences go out to you and your family. I'm way up in the mountains. I'm way up North Georgia in a town called Cartersville. Very laid back, very peaceful, very friendly. A lot of land. I'm about to show you. Back home. Came up here to look at a washing machine. It's very nice. Now, it's a very little active, little quiet road, I'll tell you that much. We go. There's some beautiful homes out here. Beautiful. Active, very active road. Gotta be paying attention. This is day 3 of the shutdown of Washington, D.C. and don't look like it affected us any. Looks like the president's gonna be in charge of what is gonna go back into business and what ain't. He is totally in charge of the government. Totally. And they don't know what to do. Played right into his hands. So he shut it down, and he's gonna keep open Social Security, health care. He's gonna keep Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security. All those will be open. So don't worry about not getting your checks. They will remain open. But all the unnecessary NGOs and all the unnecessary business that goes on in Washington that he considers waste, you're getting laid off.
The White House warning federal spending cuts are on the way as some Democrats refuse to negotiate and put an end to the government shutdown.
I realize that my Democrat colleagues are facing pressure from members of their far-left base, but they're playing a losing game here.
And over in Portland, protesters erupting against immigration enforcement as the ICE director there calls out local politicians for refusing to take a stand against the chaos. We're going to have more from that exclusive interview later this hour. Plus, sparks flying online for Taylor Swift fans after the Grammy winner released her new album overnight. The details on what Easter eggs you can find in the life of the showgirl coming up. You are watching Fox and Friends First on this Friday morning. I'm Carly Shimkus. Todd has the day off. Let's turn it over to Madeline Rivera, who is live in Washington with the very latest on the government shutdown. Hi, Maddie.
Good morning, Carly. The Senate will have another chance today to vote on the clean short-term funding bill. We'll see if the Democrats hold firm against it, despite the president suggesting he'll use the shutdown as a roadmap to make big cuts. Republicans are blaming the potential consequence at the Democrats' feet, saying it would not happen if Dems just helped reopen the government.
I realize that my Democrat colleagues are facing pressure from members of their far-left base, but they're playing a losing game here, with a Democrat House member noting yesterday, and I quote, "This government shutdown is a result of hardball politics driven by the demands far-left groups are making for Democrat Party leaders to put on a show of their opposition to President Trump."
Bipartisan Senate negotiations continue off stage. Senators want to fund the government, but Democrats also want to extend Obamacare subsidies.
Republicans have gone radio silent It's clear that they wanted to shut this government down, and they wanted to shut it down because they were unwilling to provide health care to working class Americans.
Democrats are denying GOP claims that they want to give free health care to migrants who are in the country illegally.
The Trump administration has alleged that Democrat proposal would allow California to continue a loophole, and I'm quoting here, to exploit to fund Medicaid for undocumented immigrants.
I write most of these bills. The federal government does not, and no federal dollars are spent on people who are undocumented.
That is a lie.
While that is technically true, Democrats want to restore all health care provisions, including access to Medicaid, Medicare, and Obamacare subsidies for lawfully present non-citizens like refugees, asylees, and parolees. The One Big Beautiful Bill made changes to these categories, putting more guardrails to ensure citizens were getting these benefits. So the shutdown ends today if the short-term spending bill gets 60 yes votes. Otherwise, Republicans hope the weekend wears Dems down. Carly.
All right, Madeline Rivera live for us in Washington. Maddie, thank you. And in just a few minutes, we're going to be speaking with Congressman Mike Hardopoulos on what he thinks we can expect on Capitol Hill this morning and how long he believes this shutdown will last. On to a Fox News alert, a massive fire erupting at a Chevron refinery in the South Bay area of Los Angeles last night. It's unclear what caused that fire, but just look at how huge it is. Thankfully, firefighters were able to contain it with no danger to the surrounding areas. Nearby residents, however, were advised to stay inside as a precaution over air quality concerns. All refinery personnel and contractors have been accounted for, and there are no injuries listed at this time. ICE arresting an illegal migrant strapped with a knife and a crack pipe in a Houston parking lot. Assistant Secretary Tricia McLaughlin saying, quote, "These are the threats our officers face every day." She is also calling for the end to the violence as DHS agents are seeing a 1,000% rise in assaults. Thankfully, the Mexican national surrendered to agents who say he's entered the country 5 times illegally. Records show just last year he had been arrested and released in October after encountering ICE officers in Seattle. Right now, he remains in custody while awaiting removal proceedings. Germany's Munich airport reopening after a brief shutdown overnight due to drone sightings in the area. At least 17 flights were canceled, with more than a dozen others diverted as European authorities remain on high alert after recent airspace violations from Russia. Nearly 3,000 passengers were provided camp beds, blankets, and food on the eve of the German national holiday. The source of the drones has not yet been named. And a dramatic night on Thursday Night Football on the West Coast with the San Francisco 49ers taking down the LA Rams, denying Los Angeles this last-minute touchdown drive.
Williams, can he get in? And it goes the other way. And the call is a fumble in San Francisco ball.
And the Niners then bringing the game to overtime and securing a crucial 26-23 win. They are now 4-1. And Swiftie season is upon us. The megastar Taylor Swift dropping her 12th album, The Life of a Showgirl.
You're sweeter than a peach, but you don't know the life of a showgirl, babe. And you never ever gonna.
Fans have been quick to pick apart the album for Easter eggs, including plenty of nods to her soon-to-be husband, like "Keep It 100," a motto of the power couple. But now "The Sky is Opalite" is a nod to Kelsey's opal birthstone, and the lyric "We make our own luck, new heights," the name of the NFL Stars podcast. So 49ers fans and Swiftie fans are happy this morning. All right, the White House looking to cut back on wasteful government spending as lawmakers struggle to agree on a new spending bill. Our next guest on what it will take to end the shutdown, and a Fox weather alert, another home collapsing along the coast of North Carolina as forecasters monitor 2 potential storms brewing in the Atlantic. We're going to bring you a live update coming up next.
Government shut down, amongst other things. So, how are you?
I'll manage.
Government shutdown. This is day 2. No. Yes, this is day 2 of the government shutdown. Troubled waters. And I am going to play the clip of Maxine Waters, admits as to why the Dems forced a government shutdown. Yeah, they forced it. And the reason why is because they want to keep illegals, they want illegals to keep getting health insurance. Healthcare. Yeah, and that's a no-no. Now, our healthcare system.
And also an ancillary up to $5,000 a month in benefits.
Right. So our healthcare system is already a hot mess, you know, with the Affordable Care Act. And now they want to include, well, they've been including the illegals under the Biden administration. They was getting free healthcare, free housing, food stamps, money, work permit, driver's license, everything under the sun under the Biden administration. Trump administration is in office now, and they cut all that. And now it's time to pass a budget for American citizens, but the Democrats want to include healthcare, continue healthcare for illegals.
This counter proposal that he filed, everybody can Google it, go pull it up. It's on the Senate's website and in the legislative text. Go to page 57 of Chuck Schumer's bill and look at section 2141. It says right there in plain language they want to repeal the health provisions of the One Big Beautiful Bill.
So this is the provision, repeal of health subtitle changes. So I wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, it's appropriate. Biden and Harris never should have had it in there, or the Democratic Party under Biden-Harris never should have put it in there. It's poisonous. Why should we pay for people who have broken the law to crash the border and come here? They're illegal. Why should we pay for the health care? What is it the old say? Crime never pays. Now the Democratic Party has reversed that. Crime pays. Break the law, you get $5,000 a month.
And here's the clip of Maxine Waters.
Wastewater.
Do Democrats want to prioritize the health care of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, Americans...
Excuse me, stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open, and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement to keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But are Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No,
you're divisive. No, you're not. You're being divisive. No, please. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, didn't we just read what the provision says that they don't like? So, I mean, who are we to believe? What we can read that's a part of the official bill, or her?
Right. And she did
she wants to do that. First off, she said their government. It's not their government. They aren't part of this country. The other thing is, if they have a position as the Democratic Party where they want to save foreign lives, then come up with something as a provision of foreign aid. You know, I mean, we can read. But, I forgot. They have been dumbing down education. So people aren't supposed to be able to read. And we're supposed to rely on the propaganda engine of the communications industry, the news industry, and the entertainment industry for what is our reality, instead of getting it ourselves by simply reading the bill in question or the provisions which have been cited. The bill says what it's supposed to say, so they don't like that. And we're supposed to be stuck on stupid and take the idea that somebody is saying, no, that's not something we should pay for. And you're going, they're lying because, well, we can see who's telling the tale. We can read. That's why her nickname should be Maxine Wastewater.
Right. Troubled waters. Now, what has been going viral is this.
Bigotry will get you nowhere. We are fighting to protect the health care of the American people in the face of an unprecedented Republican assault. Bigotry will get you nowhere.
I love it when he starts making these declarations that are not supported by the Constitution, statutory law, or the chief executive whom the Constitution empowers with being the chief diplomat.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody.
This group of invaders become the American people.
Right.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too. There's no way to...
So I wanted to ask you now.
Hey, Musk is working on XAI right here in Memphis, so that's right up his alley. Brilliant.
I wanted to ask you, so now that the government is shut down, what is open and what is closed?
Well, you'll be able to get the FBI, Port Authority. You'll be able to get air traffic controllers. You will probably get the supervisors coming out of their offices and manning the TSA checkpoints. You will have the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, and Space Force. You'll get CIA and all of the above. You might get some people furloughed and laid off, and there is one person, Vaught, in the administration. He was in Trump's last administration, and he has been plotting over the last several years on a scheme, knowing that the Democrats were going to do this. So he says it's a nice opportunity to get rid of a lot of surplus employees that don't need to be on the federal rolls because they aren't really pulling their own weight and earning their paychecks. So whatever that is, I mean, it's the average person isn't going to see much about it. You can't get evicted on Section 8 if your check doesn't come in. Maybe you need to start thinking about you've been on Section 8 long enough and go get a job if you can, especially if your mama and your grandmama have been on it or the equivalent. The next thing is
what about
spend wisely.
What about food stamps? People who
food stamps, that's not going to be cut off because those are negotiable. And also the money for that's already out. You know, they have the cards now. Right. Might hurt somebody who's saying, hey, I'll trade you $100 worth of food stamps for $80 cash. That's not why we're paying for it.
And what about Medicaid and Medicare?
Medicaid, Medicare won't be impacted because what happens, you don't have to pay out of your pocket right there. It's billed at the end of the month, just like most other bills. And it would be going through the system to be paid at a later time. Hopefully by then, these clowns will have not been so adamantly against stripping the provision out of the affordable health care bill that says, the new provision that says you can take people who commit crimes to get here and you can reward the criminality by saying, hey, we'll give you up to $5,000 a month benefits, including free medical care, which the rest of us don't get. And since I went over to Medicare a couple of years ago, and my insurance bill went from $1,650 a year to I pay $14,000 a year now under Medicare, which is absolutely ridiculous. So if I've got to pay that, I'll be damned if I want to be giving it away to somebody that criminally crashed the border and maybe an ISIS, Al Qaeda, Hamas Iranian, North Korean, or part of the People's Republic of China who is infiltrated here to set off some explosive device to commit some type of sabotage. I don't particularly like that. Oh, isn't that cute?
They're going ham on the memes, and rightfully so. I think they should, because yeah, the Democrats are the ones holding up a bipartisan budget bill to be passed.
By the way, pay careful attention. This is what you need to be aware of when you start assessing who's being truthful. You read the provision.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they're doing. The bill of goods they're trying to sell you instead of the goods.
Right. Exactly. I want to play this clip here of Chuck Schumer speaking on the floor about the bill. So he's saying Schumer is angry that Democrats are being accused of giving illegals free health care. The law prohibits undocumented immigrants from getting payments from Medicare, Medicaid, and ACA. There's no money going there, which...
Well, Schumer is an idiot.
Yeah, he's a liar.
He explained the allocations under Biden-Harris for just that purpose, that the Congress that they were controlling passed.
I want to play this clip here real quick.
The American people know it's not beautiful. And so they know, our Republican colleagues know that the American people are fully behind us when it comes to lowering costs, but also when it comes to health care and making sure that those premiums don't go way up. And then I spoke to Speaker Johnson directly in the room. I told him, because he can't debate health care, because he knows it's not, the American people are on the side of wanting these increases, even Republicans. I told him to stop making up stories that too many Republicans are lying through their teeth. They say, oh, the Democrats want undocumented immigrants to get health care, to get the federal dollars of health care. That is utter bull. And they know it. The law prohibits undocumented immigrants from getting payments from Medicare, Medicaid, or the ACA. There's no money, not a penny, of federal dollars that are going there. So why do they bring this up? Because they're afraid to talk about the real issue, which is health care for American citizens. Health care for people who need the health care and can't afford these premiums. Let me say it again. Undocumented immigrants cannot receive premium tax credits by law.
The lie is sticking in your throat and you have to clear it, don't you? And look, some of us have actually been caught up in that trap that Biden-Harris is responsible for, and the Democrats in Congress, House and Senate are responsible for. We know you're lying through your teeth. That's an appeal to people down there, you'd think, in their 20s who aren't even reflecting on it, because that's so far away up in the future. When you get old and decrepit like that, you won't have to worry about it. Things will be better. I have better things to think of. No, you don't, because it gets here real quick.
Also,
quickly.
Another point there onto why he's lying is because under the Biden administration, there were a lot of companies receiving millions and billions of dollars to aid and help and give resources to the illegals.
Yeah.
So no, on paper, it wasn't illegals getting Medicaid or Medicare, but these quote unquote NGOs, these medical companies and businesses and corporations and nonprofits, they were getting subsidy funding from the federal government and administrating free health care to the illegals.
It's called criminality to get around and come up with a concealed method of doing it. And by the way, there's still this other thing, United States Criminal Codes, Title 8, Section 1324, giving aid, comfort, assistance, etc., 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 to illegal aliens is a felony. And they've been doing it. And we read what was highlighted on the bill where that would be prohibited. Now,
it says here, subtitle E, other health provisions, repeal of health subtitle changes, subtitle B of subtitle 7 of the Act title an act to provide for reconciliations pursuant to Title 2 of H, CONRES.14, I don't know what that means, is repealed, and any law or regulation referred to in such subtitle shall be applied as if subtitle and the amendments made by such subtitle had not been enacted.
Yeah, in other words, they're stripping what Biden and Harris got put in there. That's what that means. And the provisions they're talking about allow just what he's denying happened. And besides, if that's what it's about, then why don't you point out to the American public specifically the provisions where the Republicans are trying to cut back on Medicare for U.S. citizens?
Exactly.
They can't. And then the other thing is, as it's worded, what's wrong with it? And it's like they're just trying to embarrass the Republican Party because they've got too many pet projects that are stripped out of that big, beautiful bill and other things like this. So they want to shut down the government, and they're getting on and lying. And this time the problem is that the communications industry is getting nervous because they've lost all credibility. They can read the reports where people are turning away from them and going to something new. People are getting their news and things like that and entertainment from other than the traditional sources, and it's costing them money.
And I also want to play this clip here because this was back in 2019, the Democrat presidential candidates, and they were asked a question about illegals and healthcare.
Raise your hand if your government plan would provide coverage for undocumented immigrants.
They all raised their hand, and that was Biden, Kamala, all of them.
Come Queen and Joe in the hole.
So, and this was before he was quote unquote elected back in 2019, 2020, but they all said that they will provide health care for illegals, and they did.
Said it. They promised it. Now they want to distance themselves from. That's not what that's a lie. Where did they get that? Well, you did it. Remember? You put it on the net. You can't get it off. You hide it, but you can't get it off. That wasn't on the net originally, but it got on the net, so we can go back and review it. 2019, 6 years ago, all these people said, they put their hands up. I just
want to ask you one more thing about the shutdown, and then I want to bring up Pete Hesech. How long do you think the government will be shut down? Do you think they're going to come out with some type of resolution over the weekend?
No. If I am not mistaken, they did this twice in 2018. The second time was the longest in American history. Now, this kind of thing was just unheard of until about 35 years ago. In fact, the whole thing about government shutdown was something that the press came up to sell newspapers or push CNN or Fox, because Fox was just getting started and nobody else was doing these 24/7 news formats. That was something new. So it's a good way to generate, what are they talking about? I got to check this out. So people tune in and the commercial sponsors, Budweiser or Gillette, they get all happy, and a few decades later they can put up commercials that demean their masculine customers and think they can get away with it. But I mean, you know.
So do you think that by Monday maybe there'll be some type of resolution?
Maybe. It's like somewhere in here, this is so slam dunk simple. Read what it says, read the rest of it, and who's lying. So you want to, before too many people do that, they need, meaning the Democratic Party, to back off and start switching to, it was just a negotiation tactic. They were trying to get us to give up something for the American public, and we were protecting it, but in the interest of so many who will be suffering if we don't, we'll concede. Oh, garbage. You had a BS position to begin with. It's part of this failed thing of you stupidly opening up the borders for the selfish purpose of trying to stuff certain states, California, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, New York, New Jersey, and places like that, so you can pick up representatives in the House and not lose them. And that was selfish, because there are a lot of people in this world that hate us, and they were kept out with tight border security, and now you just take everything down. And they just walk across with backpacks filled with military-grade explosives and transmitting detonation devices, and they don't even have to commit suicide to blow something up. They don't have to infiltrate. They don't have to hijack jet planes. They've already put the explosives in place, or the toxins, or whatever they're going to do. And right now, Homeland Security is saying we need to be on high alert, because they've gotten indications, like they got back just prior to 9/11, that something's getting ready to go down.
So speaking of military, I want to play this because Pete Hesech, he gathered all of the top generals and the military in one room this week and gave a speech, you know.
And it wasn't just generals.
Yeah.
They brought in top-ranking non-commissioned officers. See, they have now, because of the fact that sergeants and non-coms do what they do, they have very high-ranking non-com positions, sergeant of the army type thing. And these are people that may have master's degrees, PhDs, and such, but they choose to be non-commissioned officers. In the military, they call it being honest. And they brought in these guys and the generals. In other words, the ones that had been there 20 plus years, 25 years, the experts who'd made a career, a successful career of what they had done, the people that make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So I love his remark about you don't want fat troops who can't perform. It's all about doing what you have to do, irrespective of what your gender is. There should be uniform physical fitness standards, and that includes generals. And he says we don't need any fat generals running around the halls of the Pentagon either, or admirals.
Mm-hmm. So let me just play this clip, and then it's another one I want to play as well.
With physical fitness and appearance. If the Secretary of War can do regular, hard PT, so can every member of our joint force. Frankly, it's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger, a brand new private or a 4-star general, you need to meet the height and weight standards and pass your PT test. And as the chairman said, yes, there is no PT test. But today, at my direction, every member of the Joint Force at every rank is required to take a PT test twice a year, as well as meet height and weight requirements twice a year, every year of service. Also today, at my direction, every warrior across our Joint Force is required to do PT every duty day. It should be common sense. I mean, most units do that already.
Used to be, but Biden, Harris, and before that, Obama administrations wiped it out.
Wiped what out?
Physical training.
Yeah, he said there was no PT, so I don't understand that.
In other words, it used to be like in high school. When I was in high school, junior high school, every day you had to go to PT, and you had to go do your workouts, do your runs, do your play.
Why did they get rid of that?
Just because it might cut somebody out from realizing their dreams. It might cut back on diversity.
Well, speaking of that, I want to play this clip of Pete Hegseth talking about the whole diversity DEI in the military.
No more identity months, DEI offices, dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship. No more division, distraction, or gender delusions. No more debris. As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that shit. No more.
Love it.
He's
by the way, why call it the Department of War? Let's go back to the way it used to be for most of the countries most of the country's history. War Department. I like that better.
Yeah, War Department. Maybe they wanted to modernize it, Department of War. I don't know.
They didn't modify it to Department of Defense until I was born.
Oh, okay.
So it's a new thing. I haven't been around the whole country's history, but that term, Department of Defense, has been around just slightly less time than I have. And I think War Department sounds better.
And you know what? I appreciate what he's saying, because this is the military. This is not about your feelings. You are a soldier. This is about taking command, knowing how to take orders, doing your job well, tip-top shape. You need to be focused, because it's about protecting and saving, our country here. When you look at other militaries in other countries, no one's overweight. No one, they don't have all this extra stuff. So yeah, I stand by Pete Hegseth. And a lot of people were second guessing, he doesn't know what he's doing. I think he does.
Have you watched clips of the Russian army or the People's Army for China or the North Korean army marching? Even the ladies. It's better choreographed than a Broadway play. Every leg is exactly parallel to every other one. Every eye gaze is exactly on the same. It's not like watching an American body of troops where they are approximately in line. You look at the rifles, and some of them are this way, some are that way. When you look at them, all of them are perfectly aligned. They've been practicing. They've been running hard. They've been training hard. So now I noticed something in Military Times a few years ago during the Biden administration. They were no longer going to focus on being in shape to run or hold up during the airborne shuffle for long distances. They were just going to practice on short sprints, because that's all you needed when you ran to and from the helicopter. But those things do break down quite frequently, especially when the people that are supposed to be running stuff are there because of their identity rather than their ability.
Right. Well, one more thing. Speaking of the military, it's a lot of job opportunities for Americans, especially American men. And I also want to play this clip here.
And by the way, if y'all didn't know, but most plumbers and electricians who then go on to own their own businesses make more than most doctors and lawyers today. It's actually becoming a national security issue, because The DoD, Department of Defense, is looking for 600,000 electricians and welders in the next 6 years, and they don't exist. And that is just to maintain our military equipment, not to build new. And by the way,
so yeah, I think people need to go get that certification in an electrician or a welder and work for the military.
Yeah, great retirement benefits.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. They got good benefits. Yeah, and you will always be employed. All right.
Of course, the officers have it better, but that's another thing. I was touching on that when I was saying they also brought in, and see, this is not productive public relations. They said the generals. They did not mention that they brought in senior non-coms. See, I had a close and personal friend. He's retired now. He had 6 graduate degrees, postgraduate degrees, and he went in as an enlisted man after he had a law degree, a master's of law, doctorate of law, doctorate in forensics, and all this other stuff, and he came in as an enlisted man, so he wound up senior chief petty officer for the 6th Fleet, and they kept trying to brevet him up to rear admiral and then vice admiral, and he said he wanted, and then they said, we'll give you a regular rank as an brigadier, rear admiral, that's 2 stars, and he said, no, I want to remain an honest man. So he did something about taking a huge truck convoy down there to New Orleans when they had Katrina. It was funny. They had him with the Humvee and the 50 cal on top. He was in his dress uniform, dress blues, and he told his man, he said, racket. He went back. There was a live belt in there. So now clear the way. The U.S. Navy is coming through. And they did. But, so they've got people that are non-coms now with more academic proficiency than some of the high-ranking officers. And the U.S. military has a lot of senior officers with master's degrees and PhDs and things, which is a change from the way it's been. So we need a professional army. And it used to be that if somebody had a pending criminal case, you could get him out of it by having him join up. They don't want him now because this stuff is too high tech.
So I want to play this clip. I meant to play it earlier. So this is Joy Reid warns America of dangerous MAGA plans, right?
Joy Reid is another idiot.
Well, once we're going to listen to this clip, right? And what she's warning of the plans is actually something that we used to have when, the economy was good. And that is what most Americans want. So take a listen.
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things. Is that if you go back before...
Did you catch that?
I heard that. What kind of stuck-on stupid plantation is this fool from?
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, why wouldn't we?
You have got to have lost your mind to even utter something like that.
Where are we supposed to be headed if we don't want those things? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
What's wrong with what you make? You can pass on to your kids or whomever you choose to bequeath it to. What's wrong with that?
Right, and why do we don't want to? And then
we don't want to pay a whole lot of taxes for babies who are living on. I paid a lot of taxes, and I resent paying taxes so somebody can stay at home and screw to their heart's content while I'm going out and working my ass off.
Right.
I don't like that, especially if you're able-bodied. You're sick, infirm, disability, okay. But if your disability is stuck on stupid and being a lazy shit, then, that's your problem. I don't want to pay for it. I think for able-bodied people, there should be a cap on how much you could get. There should be no such thing as any able-bodied somebody having a multi-generational receipt of public assistance. That's poisonous. There are enough hard-working people out there in the United States of America. Hell, I have some in my house right now correcting stuff. Hard-working people. They can work. They don't need to be paying for you screwing and busting out babies like you some kind of prize breeder on a ranch or a facility or a plantation raising livestock, breeding livestock. That's not your business.
Lieutenant Colonel George E. Hardy, one of the last surviving members of the Tuskegee Airmen who flew 21 combat missions in World War II. Like many Tuskegee Airmen, Hardy continued serving as a military pilot after the war. He passed away. The last surviving Tuskegee.
Where is he from? Ohio?
Not sure. I can look it up. So I wanted to, highlight last surviving of the Tuskegee Airmen to fly combat mission in World War II. He was 18 years old at the time. Oh my God. Wow. So I wanted to get you.
Well, you know what? That's interesting because that just strips George Herbert Walker Bush of his official distinction as supposedly the youngest combat pilot for the United States in World War II when he was supposedly 19 when he got shot down.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like a child.
Well, he was 18. Yeah, he was young.
Yeah.
So, born in South Philadelphia, June 8th, 1925, he was the second of 7 children, grew up during a time of racial segregation. Hardy graduated from South Lafayette High School only 6 months after the attack on Pearl Harbor and right on the cusp of World War II.
Well, more power to him. And 332nd is a very, very impressive unit.
But
I was well acquainted with the person that was chairwoman of the Tuskegee Airmen's, I forget what they call it. They have an institute too. Remember the thing about the scholarships that they were trying to give for the pilots, training pilots?
Oh, yes, I remember.
She was married to one of the Tuskegee.
Yes. Yeah, and we interviewed her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dolores Brown.
Yes. So, listen, when we talk about the military, when we talk about fitness and pride and being focused on the mission, it seemed like during that time, those soldiers, white, black, or what have you, World War II and even in Vietnam, compared to today, I understand why Pete Hegseth want to bring back the respect that the military, really once hold, like the optics and the reputation and what it's like to serve in the military. So, and I'm sorry, the Tuskegee Airmen, Harlem Hellfighters, and others went through hell on and off the battlefield.
Harlem Hellfighters was 1917, so that hell. It was the largest division in the U.S. Army. There were more than 18,000 members, and the Harlem Hellfighter was composed of the black contingent and the Puerto Rican contingent. You remember that old song, There Is a Rose in Spanish Harlem?
Mm-hmm.
Part of Harlem was Puerto Rican, was known as Spanish Harlem, and the other part of Harlem was more composed of folk that had come from the American South. So they put the Puerto Rican contingent and the Southern American contingent together, and it was the largest division in World War I, not just black, but U.S. Army. They got a different deal because John J. Pershing effectively sent the black troops to fight with the French, under the French, in French uniforms. Now, some people want to call that racist, but John J. Blackjack Pershing got his name Blackjack because he went through West Point in his mid-20s, not his late teens. And he was from the Midwest, and he had been a school teacher teaching black students before he got into West Point. So he volunteered to be assigned to the 10th Cavalry, aka the Buffalo Soldiers. So he quickly rose up in the ranks and became ultimately the commanding officer of the 10th Cavalry Buffalo Soldiers. So he got the derisive nickname of Blackjack because of that. But when he got to be commanding general of the U.S. Expeditionary Force to Europe, I guess he did the black troops a favor by assigning them to French control rather than to American control, where they would have been condemned to being under generals and colonels from Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, North Carolina, and all of that.
And let me just say this as well. I just want to say this, right, having you going into details, which is good, but the only reason why I wanted to, first of all, acknowledge and respect, that man and others who served, especially under those conditions in the climate of the United States of America, in the military and in society. But, just piggybacking off of what Pete Hedges was saying, as far as getting rid of all the DEI, the climate change or whatever, there was no such thing as DEI. When you talk about Tuskegee Airmen, Harlem Hellfighters, and many others, they didn't join the military because of DEI. You talk about merit. Yeah, they probably were better than the white soldier because they intentionally wanted the black soldiers to fail, so they tried to make the test harder. They tried to make the PT, the physical part, harder, and they surpassed with flying colors. So yeah, take DEI out of it, because when we're talking about black Americans here in America, everything that has been accomplished that black Americans has contributed, especially when it comes to the military, was not because of DEI. It's because they earned it, they deserved it, and it was solely on merit. So,
in other words, you got to work twice as hard as everybody else to get anywhere at all, not you get there because of what you look like. Now, the reason I brought it up is because remember our discussion earlier today on Bad Bunny being from Puerto Rico? It was an opportunity to say there's been a long connection between Puerto Rico and the United States and the black folk therein, all right?
Of course, yes, of course.
So that's why I brought it up, 1917. Yeah. And the Tuskegee Airmen is a good thing to cover your point. It's famously the only fighter escort unit that did not lose a single bomber. It was escorting to air intercept.
So that's it.
The rest of the B-17, B-24 crews, when Doolittle took over the 8th Air Force and that spread to the 15th, where the 332nd was down in Italy, were using the bombers as bait to draw the Luftwaffe up so the fighter pilots could shoot them down. So they frequently left the bait to their own devices, and a lot of losses were incurred. Benjamin O. Davis copied something from the British or the Royal Navy, which was the convoy system. He used the bombers as the freighters, the cargo ships, and like the U-boats had to go to the convoys to kill ships, that brought them right into the lap of the escorting destroyers. Well, what happens is he uses the bomber stream as a convoy to bring the Luftwaffe into the laps of the 332nd so they could kill them. And they did not have to leave the bombers to their own devices to get shot down ruthlessly. So in case you're wondering what that meant to the white folk, and it had a lot to do with how we moved on to ending segregation, is the 8th Air Force lost 52,000 dead in 16 months. And these are airmen, they're not on the ground. And another whole bunch, 30-some thousand that were captured. So that's 85,000 casualties, so to speak. And the 15th Air Force lost somewhere 35,000. So that was almost a suicide squad thing. So here you have the 332nd, these black flyers who are not supposed to be able to handle complicated, fast machinery. And they give these white pilots, or these bombers, a reprieve from being on a suicide mission, being baked. So a lot of the bomber pilots came from the South, so when the civil rights thing hit and they were talking about desegregation, not integration, which is a misnomer, desegregation, there were some friends that said, we remember these guys. Dad, granddad wouldn't be here but for them. So, treat them with a little bit of respect.
Okay. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of A Justice for All.
Yeah, it looks like there's something here. Is that not what happened?
Yeah, but I mean, you can indict a ham sandwich. I mean, I can have a grand jury go in there and say that Bakari Sellers is the next Denzel Washington. That is just the way the process works.
You could find a grand jury that would do that.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to yesterday's news channel where we...
Is the government, and never again will the immense power of the state be weaponized to persecute political opponents, President Trump said when he was inaugurated. Is he keeping his word?
I think most Americans would agree. I mean, that weaponization is now the central focus of the Department of Justice. It's not keeping us safe. It's not keeping Americans safe. It's not going after or prosecuting drug traffickers or all these other things. It's literally an arm of Donald Trump prosecuting his enemies. And not only that, but we can see what happened in Virginia in the Comey case, because he had someone who did not find probable cause. He literally got rid of his own U.S. attorney and put somebody who, is just simply inept and unqualified to actually have that job. We've talked about DEI hires forever, but she is so inept and so unqualified to be the U.S. attorney. Then now you're going to have a case that's probably going to fall apart against Comey, but the question is who's next? And that's what he's using the Department of Justice for.
Well, she was apt and qualified enough to get a grand jury to look at the evidence and return 2 charges against him. Are you saying that this process, which is used all over the country every single day to bring crimes all over the code, is somehow broken? These are ordinary citizens in a liberal jurisdiction who looked at evidence from a prosecutor and said, yeah, it looks like there's something here. Is that not what happened?
Yeah, but you can indict a ham sandwich. I can have a grand jury go in there and say that Bakari Sellers is the next Denzel Washington. That is just the way the process works.
You could find a grand jury that would do that.
So let's just bring up this graphic here of Trump. James Comey has been indicted. The New York Attorney General Letitia James is under investigation, and Senator Adam Schiff under investigation. Former Special Counsel Jack Smith under investigation. Former National Security Advisor John Bolton under investigation, and we do expect there will be charges filed. Retired General Mark Milley under investigation. Former CIA Director John Brennan under investigation. Former CISA Director Chris Krebs under investigation. Former DHS official Miles Taylor under investigation.
Look, this is what Donald Trump said he was going to do during the campaign. He said, he was very clear this is what he was going to do. And I think it's actually Republican willingness to normalize, apologize for this behavior. I was listening to you interview Speaker Johnson, and it's just striking to watch congressional Republicans essentially say that the President of the United States going on social media and directing a U.S. attorney to indict a political opponent after previous efforts to do so fell short through an IG report that found no wrongdoing, through prosecutors in the district who said that there was not sufficient evidence to bring the case. So watching somebody like Speaker Johnson normalize that, it sends us down an incredibly dangerous path. And I do think the other thing I would say just quickly to Kristen's point, or to piggyback on what Kristen was saying, I do think there's actually also an opportunity cost here with voters for Trump. People voted for him in huge part to bring costs down. The more they watch him focus on personal retribution, yes, it motivates his base. Yes, it motivates the Democratic base. But for these voters in the middle who are looking for their cost of living to come down, for their lives to be better, they say, why are you not focused on what matters to me?
I'm stunned to hear you say we're now worried about normalizing this kind of thing. We had an attorney.
You are about to do right now. Let's hear it.
I'm about to tell you what happened in the state of New York when the Democratic Attorney General ran an entire political campaign promising not to uphold justice, but to prosecute one person, Donald Trump. And I didn't hear a lot of weeping and gnashing of teeth among Democrats about normalizing the weaponization of justice. That chart you put up there, my question is, do they deserve it? If they didn't do anything wrong, I'm not certain anything bad's going to happen to them. Bolton, that started under Joe Biden. James, I mean, these people that you put on the screen, they may have something that needs to be looked at. But don't you have trust in the processes, grand juries? This is how the system works, and I don't have any. And Jim Comey, he's going to go.
I think it's the abuse.
Why does it seem like half the segments I see?
The abuse of the system, and what we're talking about is the abuse of the system.
What if needs to be the idea of prosecuting people when Democrats were going after Trump? Were you worried about abuse?
Because I firmly believe that Donald Trump broke the law and he was indicted.
Do you think the 34 charges that are cited all the time were good charges?
But let me just say this. I mean, you just sat here and talked about the process. You gave me a lecture about the grand jury system. Well, Donald Trump actually went to trial and got convicted. Correct. That is the process he went through. And let me just explain to you the difference in the abuse and the difference in departments of justice. I mean, we can go all the way back to Republicans having a fit when JFK tried to nominate RFK, his brother, to be Attorney General. But I can actually go back to Joe Biden. Joe Biden indicted his own son. Did he deserve to be indicted? Yes. But he indicted his own son.
You're saying the White House was directing. You're saying the White House was directing indictments. But there's nobody directing indictments. That's a revelation.
Have one person speaking at a time. What were you going to say?
Yeah, he did pardon him, and I think it does. Then that really sets forth this notion that there is this two-tiered system of justice in this country, where the wealthy, the powerful, the connected have tended to be able to get away with doing things that they shouldn't have done. Now, that's not to say that in this case, what Jim Comey did was definitely bad. That this all needs to be sussed out in the courts. But there's been a lot of folks in Donald Trump's orbit who have been pursued, have gone to prison, and you may say, well, look, they did something wrong, they deserved it. That's all that Republicans are saying now, which is why this is feeling like a bit of a wash, at least in some of the data.
You know, in the first clip we watched, Bakari Sellers said something to the effect